Hey, I'm Jerry, and this is Chef Dennis Chan, as I'm sure you know because you're on his channel. Today we're going to dive into podcast episode number 3. You know, we haven't actually come up with a name for the podcast yet.
It's okay. I think our guests will come up with a name for us.
There you go.
Yep. Drop a comment down below and tell us what you think our podcast.
Yeah, tell us what we should call the podcast. That's a great idea. One of the things we should probably share with you is that going forward, we anticipate we're going to bring on guests for more or most of our podcasts, and not necessarily people who are food related. Not necessarily. I mean, we'll do some chefs and we'll do some food related folks, but just kind of interesting people who have a fascinating story to share. I think we both have a passion for storytelling and kind of getting a chance to experience other people's journey and unique experiences.
Absolutely.
Such a fun time for us to get to just say, hey, I want to talk to that guy and bring him on, and you guys get to come along for the ride. I think that'll be cool. All right, so I am just back from Taiwan, a whole nother world. Definitely a wild sort of adventure, and also fantastic. Really awesome. Saw things I've never seen before, experienced things in a new way. Got stuck in an elevator. Did all of the adventure. And Chef Dennis has been to China many times now, right?
Yeah, Taipei is a really neat city, and it's a big city, but yet it's very walkable, and there are little shops all over. It's got that still small Asian town feel, but it's still a big city. I was there before Disney opened in Hong Kong, because they were doing a little fair through Asia. So Hong Kong and Taipei, and they had Disney Fest. So they needed someone to teach the Disney way of doing things.
So this is when you were a VIP host at Disney, right?
Yes, I also taught the orientation program. It was called Traditions. And so trying to teach the Disney way of doing things to a Taipei audience of people that didn't really know Disney yet back then was a neat thing.
That had to be amazing.
It was a neat thing.
I mean, even teaching people who are in the U.S. who haven't experienced, Disney has a very particular way of doing things, right?
Yes, the customer service level is very kind and friendly, but professional.
Yeah, and meticulous, it seems like.
Yep.
I always thought, growing up, if you grow up in Florida as a kid, you go to Disney World a lot, and I went probably every other year as a kid, and I always just felt like it was like the happiest place on earth. Like, as a kid, it was all a little larger than life, and everybody always felt like they were in a good mood, which you just don't see in the world.
Yeah, it's part of that training, that traditions, that company orientation program just teaches all of its cast members. There are different keys to their success, and if you remember those keys, that's what gives every employee that ability to express that.
And there's so many subtle ways that brands teach their people to do that. Like hotels now have taught all of their people, no one ever walks down the hallway past you without you saying hello. Like next time you go to a hotel, pay attention, because I bet you'll find that literally anybody who works at the hotel, if you pass them in a hallway, will stop what they're doing and say hello to you, unless you're at a Motel 6. Or
even then,
probably.
Maybe at the Motel 6 you'll have people that aren't employees say hello to you.
You probably will. You probably will. So I go to Taiwan, I take the flight over, everything's going good, and then unfortunately I get a stomach bug midair, and have a hurl or two on the plane, and then I spend my whole first day in bed. And then I go to my first meal in Taiwan, and I sit down at Dragon Restaurant, which I'm told is the most famous Chinese restaurant in Taipei and Taiwan in general. And on the table in front of me are jellyfish, pig ear, and century egg, which they told me was 100-year-old egg, but we all know isn't actually 100 years old. But it's like a translucent black or brown egg. A heck of a first meal start.
What'd you dig into first?
Jellyfish, because I figured jellyfish was going to be close to calamari, and it was. I think taste-wise it was pretty close. Chewy, definitely a lot chewy, like chewing on an eraser almost. Hard to get down, hard to get chewed up to like the size that you could swallow it. Pig ear tasted good, but the texture, if you're not used to that texture, is kind of rough.
Crunchy.
Yep, and then the egg, I couldn't do it. I'm a little too concerned about my stomach still, and I spent a whole day not eating so that my stomach would sort itself out. Which whenever I get a stomach bug, that's what I do. And I thought, man, if I do this egg, I might reverse all that hard work of trying to get back to normal. So.
Well, the century eggs have a gray center, so the outside or what's usually the white may be translucent, but the center is kind of gray, the yolk, and I could see why that would scare you away.
Yeah, I just didn't know what it was going to taste like, and if it's an overwhelming flavor and you're already having a little bit of nausea sort of thing, that just seems like a bad choice.
There is a company in China who has mastered making those eggs, but making them golden instead of brown.
Wow, that sounds a lot more appetizing visually.
They're beautiful eggs.
Is it delicious? Did you like it?
I'm not a fan of 100-year-old eggs.
He said that like, oh, did you try it? Like he said, like he likes it, and then no. It's always just kind of what you grew up eating, right? There's always things that people grow up eating. We grow up eating that people are like, what in the world? I mean, people who they come to the South for the first time and we're eating alligator, and they're like, alligator? And that might be the friendliest of the
tastes like chicken
oddball foods. Yeah, it does. Kind of a darker meat chicken. For sure. We usually fry it too. Although I've had it, Chef Kenny Gilbert, I had it at his place with in alligator ribs, and the taste was good. Although it was spicy.
All throughout Asia, the texture is really what makes something good to someone who lives in Taipei or someone who lives in China. They really like jelly textures. They like crunchy textures. It's all meant to excite your mouth, and that's why they're strange to us, because we like our fried foods, but soft textures are good, and
yeah, we don't do chewy as often.
Our culture here in America is a little bit more bland.
That's probably fair. A lot of the foods that were popular in Taipei had a mochi sort of texture to it. That very chewy, bouncy, sort of bite.
Bouncy, and even with noodles, sometimes they take noodles and they knead it and knead it and knead it so that it has that bouncy texture when you have that. That's the mouthfeel they're looking for.
That makes sense. The other thing that was definitely culture shock too was just how little English was spoken. In Taipei, there's a lot more English spoken. We went to Tainan in the south, and there was like no English spoken, not much at all. So being in a place where you speak none of the language and very, very few people also speak any of the language, it's a bit of a helpless feeling. But also I felt like it was such a good experience to have that, and it makes me appreciate people who come visit the U.S. and don't speak much English and the kind of situation they're in. But then also you learn to read body language better. You learn to communicate more non-verbally, more effectively, and you could see that a lot of people there had that experience with English speakers that came to Tainan, Taipei, whatever, and they struggle to communicate. So they figured out if you were looking for the bathroom or that sort of thing.
Well, Taiwan is a very rich culture, and the Taiwanese are very proud of their culture, and it's so intertwined with language that I could see that being a thing where they may have learned English words in school, in grammar school, but they really don't have a chance to use it.
Sure, yeah, and in Taipei everybody spoke a few words, and if you were in a hotel or you were in a big restaurant in public, sure, absolutely. The food experience is honestly for me one of the most like culture shock experiences, just because I'd never seen it before a lot of times. And I'd heard stories. My father goes 2-3 times a year to Asia. He's actually on a flight back from Malaysia at the moment, trying to wrap up a business deal over there for our family's business. But I'd heard all these stories of food in China and food in Taiwan, but this was a whole nother level to be there and be experiencing a lot of that. We were supposed to go to eat, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but like xiaolongbao, like the soup dumplings at a very famous soup dumpling spot, or apparently the most famous in Taipei. And we go there and they say 3-hour wait, and we say nope. And the gentleman we were with says, "Oh, do you guys like hot pot?" And we're like, at first he asked us, "Oh, where do you guys want to go eat?" And we don't really know anywhere there. And I mean, I could pick out a place or two, but we just said, wherever you want to take us is fine. And I learned that was a bad decision. And then second, he says, "Okay, do you guys like hot pot?" I'm like, yeah, we love hot pot, right? And I've eaten hot pot in the U.S. many times. It's, chicken, beef, pork,
conveyor
any
belt.
of those things fine. Yeah, conveyor belt. I've had conveyor belt.
Yeah.
I've had that more than I've had not conveyor belt hot pot actually in the U.S. But chicken, beef, pork, that sort of thing. Well, we get there and I can smell this very odd smell the moment we walk in the place. And this is a real locals joint. There's one guy serving 10 tables. We walk in, we sit down, and he says, "What do you want to drink?" And there's a big case full of drinks, and most of it's beer. And I say, I'd like to drink water. And he looks and he says, "Oh, they don't have water." Like, what do you mean they don't have water? Everyone has water. And he said, no, they really don't have water. And I'm like, okay. He's like, "What kind of beer can I get you?" And I don't drink, so you can't get me a beer, but how about some tea? And he's like, "Okay." And he brings over this bottle. And he's like, pours me a glass, and I take a sip, and it tastes like grass. I mean, it literally tastes like green grass.
Tea.
It actually wasn't even a tea. I can't even remember what you call it, but it was literally like a wheat drink, wheat-based drink. And he could see from my face that wasn't going to work. And he said, "Oh, I'll get you the tea now." And brings the green tea over.
Great.
Okay, so we're not off to a great start, right? So we have no water and green tea and all that. And then halfway through the meal, I looked in the case very carefully. I said, "There's water in the bottom left corner." And he said, No, that's their personal water. "What do you mean that's their personal water?" I'm like, no, it's please ask the guy. So he finally asked the guy. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's water for the public." Like, oh yeah. So here comes the food. We've got hot pot in front of us. Chicken, beef, whatever, sounds great. And then he opens the menu, and there's a big picture of a lamb, and then there's only Chinese words there. And he says, "Everything on here is every part of the lamb." So head to toe, every part of the lamb is game to drop in that hot pot. And I like lamb, but I don't like super gamey lamb. This lamb is the gamiest lamb of my entire life, and then some. Like, I mean, you've never tasted a more gamey thing in your whole life. And if you love lamb, you probably would love this experience. My dad enjoyed it, which is funny because my dad is picky about food. Somehow he loved it. But the first scoop of lamb comes out of the pot, dropped on my plate, and it's bone in, as Asian culture is always bone in and fatty. Just what they tend to like.
It's texture.
Yeah. There you go. You get that chewy. Yeah. And then there's a big tendon hanging off of the hunk of lamb they drop on my plate. It was kind of. Yeah, and you want to talk about texture?
You are VIP. That's the part everyone wants.
That's the part I would give to anyone else. Please, for the love of God, I was dying. I was just, So of course I pick it up with my chopsticks and I take a couple bites to try to look like a nice guy and whatnot. And then they, everything that comes out tastes like lamb now, because hot pot is your pot in the middle of the table. If you're not familiar with hot pot, it's a big pot in the middle of the table, and then everything's cooked in the pot with like the broth.
Was it the one with the lava rocks underneath it?
No lava rocks underneath.
Okay.
I think it was some kind of heat source, but not lava rocks. There was every part of the lamb you can imagine dumped in this thing, and then just ridiculous amount of vegetables, which by the way is my favorite part of eating Taiwanese cuisine or Chinese cuisine, is that they serve you like 8 vegetables every meal. Why can we not do that? And they're delicious, and they're not bad for me. It's not like even if we do a lot of vegetables, it's like fried okra, corn, like drowned in butter, mashed potatoes, which all taste great, but like they're horrible for me. Like, and in Asian cuisine, they make delicious vegetables that aren't bad for me per se.
Yeah, a dream meal is like a 10-course just vegetables.
It's pretty much what we did at every meal. Like, you had a couple proteins, and then you just ate vegetables everywhere. In the middle of, if you've never been to Asia or never eaten Chinese cuisine in Asia, there's a big lazy Susan, like a big circular, spinning platform in the middle of the table. And you grab yours, and then you spin it, and then the next person grabs theirs. So you never have to do. It's really a fantastic solution. We should do it because every big holiday, you have bowls or plates, and you're passing them, and nobody ever knows which way to go. You know, it's served to the left, pass to the right, or something like that. We all got taught as a kid, and then we still can't quite remember. And then we all, hey, can you grab that one? You don't have to do any of that. You just have to make sure there's not somebody grabbing with chopsticks when you try to spin, because that's a big mess. Didn't do it. Didn't
It's
do it.
fun to do that to people, though. As soon as you see someone going in for something, spin it.
And then the other thing people often don't realize is there's no serving spoons or anything like that. It's always serving chopsticks, which are separate from the chopsticks you eat with. I mean, I know I'm telling you all sorts of things that you already know, but I've had a million conversations since coming back, and it's fascinating to me.
Well, you know, when you use the serving chopsticks, you have to kind of watch, because I've always thought that the black ones, the darker ones, are always the ones that go to your mouth, and then the lighter ones are the ones that you share, that you touch the food with. But who knows? Maybe that's not the rule. You just kind of have to watch and see what everyone else.
Yeah, we pretty much just watched. We never got the speech on.
You know, another cool thing that they do in Asia that we don't do here is that when you have a coat, there is no coat check in Asia. What they do is that you put your coat on the back of your chair, and they have a slip that they put over your jacket, and so you keep your jacket with you the whole time, and it is snug underneath the little raincoat kind of thing, and you never lose your jacket because there's no coat check.
That's cool. You never forget to take it with you?
No, it's there. I mean, it's obvious when you get up, you see that it's there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very cool. Well, I mean, you never forget to grab it out of the coat check.
Oh, right.
Because I've left a couple jackets at coat checks up north. You know, we're in Florida, so no coat checks here. It's just hot as sin in the summertime. A little bit cold in the winter. Well, I always put it on the back of my chair anyway, but unless I'm up north and they have a coat check.
Well, I think that the bigger part of it is when you're at a restaurant, a server can never spill something on your jacket. If it's,
that makes sense. Oh, with the cover, right?
With the cover.
Have you? Did you go to a night market when you were in Asia? And
Yes, I love going to the night markets. What about?
Yeah, we did. We went to. They call it like the flower night market or something along those lines in Tainan. One of the biggest.
I bet in Tainan you had so much stinky tofu. In the night market.
I have tasted stinky tofu, and I have tasted my last bite of stinky tofu. Yes. So culturally they grew up eating lots of stinky tofu in Taiwan. It's a fermented tofu. It smells foul. It's like eating a really smelly cheese, almost. And I like a bit of stink cheese, but not too much.
Yeah, it's not like blue cheese stinky. It's like rotten cheese stinky.
So I had it fried, and the outside actually tasted pretty good. But the second you bit into it, it was like, oh my God, what died in here? So I did swallow it down. You know, I felt like they were watching. Of course, like everyone's like, let's watch this crazy American take a bite of stinky tofu all at the same time. So I swallowed that bad boy down and put the best smile on my face I could. And they're like, oh, you want another? I'm like, no, I'm good. One was enough.
If you ever want some here in town, there's one place that sells it.
No, I don't want some. I don't want some ever again. I have no need for that.
Well, you know, whenever you're especially in Taipei, everywhere you go, every street market has stinky tofu. So you smell it everywhere, and you have to try it because you wonder, what is it about this that people really like? And I think they're addicted to that ferment flavor.
Well, I think it's like anything. Like I love grits. I adore grits. I could eat grits with every meal. And people who come from the northern U.S. won't touch grits half the time.
Right, or
you
it's
just
sweet.
Grow up, that's foul. Don't put sugar.
Yeah,
on
it's
your
like
grits.
oatmeal.
For the love of God, don't put sugar. That's like sacrilege. Butter, cheese, bacon, whatever. Yeah. But for the love of God, grits are not supposed to be sweet. Eat your oatmeal. I'll stay away from that. I'm not a big oatmeal fan. I can eat it, but it's like
polenta.
Yeah, polenta's fine.
Grits and polenta is.
I could do that.
Polenta's the yellow grits.
So yeah, we did the night market. We walked around. We checked out all of it. I won't remember the Chinese name for it, but the scallion pancake is a big thing in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And I had 2 different versions of scallion pancake. There was like a softer one, didn't love. It was fine. It tasted good, but I wasn't like blown away.
The
and
thicker
then
one.
At the night market, they rolled it. It looked like a rolled up pancake, and they fried it. And my God, it was delicious. And then there's some kind of like seasoning on it.
So flaky, so many layers.
Heaven.
Yeah.
It's like eating biscuits.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like a different sort of. And I love onion and scallion flavor anyway. So.
The other thing is Taiwan is the birthplace of boba tea. So I bet you could have gone to places that like hand roll their boba and all that stuff.
I drink an ungodly amount of boba tea. Every meal, one of the other things I loved about Taiwanese culture is there's this like, when you have a guest, you're there to care for them. And every time we went to a meeting, there were snacks. Like, these people get it. Like, why is the rest of the world not like this? There were delicious snacks at every meeting. You walked in, the first thing they did is hot tea. And so everybody had some hot tea, and then usually boba after that. Every now and then they skipped the hot tea and we went straight to boba. But I drank more than my lifetime supply of boba over there. And it's nice. I like boba tea. Boba tea can be good. And there's a million ways to make it. I like the jelly kind the best because I have a real sweet tooth. But it's all good.
Yeah, that's Taiwan. Why not?
So another fun Taiwan story, and they take us to this restaurant, and we get taken to this restaurant, and I look straight as we walk through the door. I look straight, and there's a giant rectangular pond inside the restaurant with like benches built around it, and there are people with fishing poles in the restaurant. I'm like, cool. That's interesting. Let's see what that is. People with fishing poles in the restaurant, and I would have thought it would be like the kiddie pond, right? But it was all adults actually when we got there, and we get back there, and they pull a raw chicken heart, and then a straight blade razor, like what they 100 years ago used to shave their face with or something, and sometimes still do if you go have the barber do it. But straight blade razor, and then they put the chicken heart on a piece of cardboard, and then chop, and then you got a rod, and you got the tiniest little hook you've ever seen, and pieces of chicken heart on the hook. It goes in. They're fishing for shrimp.
Oh, cool.
Which was fascinating.
Yeah. Absolutely
fascinating. You had a little bobber and basically, so they had like the professional show us how to do everything. And so he was basically, and there's fountains in it that move the water around. And he basically was showing that you just wanted to cover a lot of ground slowly. So I caught 2 shrimp. Our purchasing director, who speaks Chinese and got the actual whole, here's how you do it. And, I got the hand signal version, but that was fine too. She caught one, and she said, the expert, after she caught it, said, "You did that wrong. You weren't supposed to catch that shrimp." So a good adventure, something I've never seen before, and probably just kind of a kitschy thing that they did.
So how do they? What do they do with the shrimp after you catch it?
Good question that I think you probably already know the answer to, but figure our audience is going to enjoy. Cook. So you fish for your dinner. You catch them out of there, and the best part is, like, after they think that if they look around and nobody's catching any for a while, they just come over with a giant bucket of shrimp and sling them all back in there. Sling them all in there, but they cook your shrimp, when you've caught it.
In front of you? Is there a table?
No, they didn't cook it in front of you. They didn't cook it in front of you, but I have a fun night market story about cooking the shrimp in front of you and catching shrimp, but. They take it to the back and they cooked it, and it's given that we caught like 4 shrimp.
How do you know it's yours?
You don't, and they probably didn't cook yours. Yours probably went right back in the bucket, and they checked it right back in the water, and they cooked what they wanted to cook. We go to the night market later the day, same day actually. We go to the night market, and there's all these kids sitting around buckets when we walk in, and I look in the bucket, and they're all filled with different sized shrimp. And they're trying to foul hook them with a treble hook. They have that like 3-prong hook. And basically the game is to, get your hook down in there on the string and then snap it up into one of the shrimp. And then they cook it on a grill right in front of you.
Wow.
It was different.
That's cool.
I thought it was really neat. I would have tried that. Although the water smelled a little foul. The other thing I saw that was kind of cool, and I thought it was worms when I first saw it, but it wasn't, is they had like little mollusks, like little shells about that big, maybe an inch long, that had some kind of creature inside, snail or something inside, and they just had a giant bowl overflowing with that, and they would just like throw them on and cook them up, and off you go.
So was it like a two shells and they open when they're cooked?
No. I
like
think,
a snail?
Yeah, more like a snail.
Oh.
It's like a swirling shell, and they're tiny. They're like an inch long.
Taiwan does like their escargot.
Well, I was told, so our purchasing director who was doing translating and taking us around to all the meetings that we had in Taiwan was telling me, she's Taiwanese. She's like, if it ever lived, we eat it.
Taiwan is the only place I've ever had escargot. The only place I was willing to have escargot.
Really?
Yes.
I've had it hors-d'oeuvre many times. It's
well,
delicious.
it was a French restaurant, but it was in Taiwan that we had escargot.
I see. So tell me some of the more interesting things you saw when you were in China.
Well, gosh, in China, they have a street that is called Food Street, and it's a night market, and it's crowded. It is so crowded.
This was wall-to-wall people.
Yes, and it's permanent structures, but they have all these little stalls along the way, and everyone tries to get customers by doing different things. The boba has this big 3D boba that bubbles and all that stuff, but you see some really cool stuff, and you see stuff like scorpions, you see stuff like lizards, and I just can't bring myself to eating that stuff. And I think we talked about it in a previous.
We did talk about it in
a previous
our second
podcast. But donkey too is a
donkey.
Yeah. And
my dad always tells stories about pre-SARS going to China, and you walk into the restaurant and there's cages out front, and you say, I want that one, and they cook it.
Yeah, bad.
We might have talked about that in the last episode too. But it's easy to forget what you talked about. So there's one of the big stories in food right now is David Chang going on this adventure of threatening to sue everybody who's making chili crisp.
Yeah. I listen to David Chang's podcast often, and it's just, very lighthearted, and he's an accomplished business person, and he has people that work for him. So he has people that he has a patent or a trademark. For chili crisp, or I think it's Chili Crunch is his trademark.
Okay.
And, in China, everything is called Chili Crisp or Chili Crunch. And so he, in America, got that name trademarked. And so if the way the trademarks work, if you don't enforce it, then it doesn't become it goes away. And all that money you paid for that trademark just goes away. So he sent some letters to some people that have businesses called Chili Crunch, and then of course social media blew up, and everyone thinks that he's bullying them for having this protecting his own trademark.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? My family's business owns probably 20 trademarks or so, and those. The way it's always been explained to me, and neither one of us are attorneys, so, we're not giving legal advice here. But what I've always been told is that what I've always been told by attorneys is that essentially if a term is used kind of universally to describe a thing, the trademark office will never issue a trademark for that. Like, you can't get a trademark for orange ball if you're selling basketballs, because orange ball is what we all kind of collectively refer to it as. So I think everybody who's gotten the letter on Chili Crunch is saying, no, this is what everyone calls the thing, and they should have never issued this mark in the first place. And if they ever go to court, he could lose the mark over that.
Well, if he doesn't enforce it, then of course he'll lose it. But there is value to that name. And,
sure, a ton of value to that.
And I think he even said, well, we'll give the money to a charity or something, or we'll give the mark to be enforced by a charity. He really is disturbed by the fact that there's an uproar about it.
Sure. Well, and he has his image has always been pretty friendly.
So yeah, his image has always been friendly, and you know, I do listen to his podcast regularly. So he and his friends talk about whatever's going on in the world that day, and he dedicated a whole podcast to talk about Chili Crunch, and he really seems like he's bothered by the fact that all these people are, you know, upset by it. So he gave several things about what he might do with it. He might turn it over to, you know, another governing body. He may create a group that polices the use of that name. And but you know, you got to protect that name if you own that name, because if you don't, it really could be in the wrong hands.
Sure,
So,
I can understand that.
yeah, so I know that he'll do the right thing, and that all the information I know about that whole situation is what I heard on the podcast. So
One of the funny things about our world today is that it's easy for people to get demonized really quickly.
Yes.
Over a misunderstanding.
Yes.
For sure.
So so you were in Taiwan. Why were you in Taiwan?
So I was over in Taiwan because my family, we own a business creating our own brands, and then also helping other people bring their kind of product ideas to life and sourcing those in Asia. So we went to Taiwan to go visit sunglasses factories, and my God, I got like the crash course of all crash courses in sunglasses. And granted, I've been working in this business 6 years now, so I knew a lot about sunglasses, but I knew a heck of a lot less than I thought I knew about sunglasses, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, when you're at the source, you put everything you know to the test.
20 factories in 10 days. I have seen every machine there is to see creating sunglasses. You would be amazed at how much testing goes into the quality of the sunglasses that you get. Everything from you know, a machine that shoots a ball at the lens for safety glasses, to same machine will then shoot like a oddly shaped projectile for military specification glasses. We actually, fun fact, we actually have some of our goggles in use in Ukraine right now, which are our military spec goggles, sold to one of our customers over there. And then there's every kind of lens you can imagine. There's every kind of lens color you can imagine. To me, the most fascinating is photochromic lenses. So those often people refer to as transitions, which we were talking trademark.
That's
transitions.
a brand name.
It is. It's a trademark, but it's become so ubiquitous that it's kind of like what everyone refers to them as, right? So when I say photochromic, most people don't even know what that means. I didn't know what it meant when I got to Sun Brands, our business. So we looked at photochromic. If you look at returns in the sunglasses industry, there's two really big places you see lots of returns, and those are photochromic lenses and fit over glasses. So they make, obviously, and usually you see older folks wearing it more often. Fit overs that fit over your glasses.
I love fit over glasses.
Dude,
Yes. I don't think most people know that, but I love fit over glasses.
You're gonna love the new stuff that's out there. So we one of the reasons we were over in Taiwan was there's our trade show there, and it was a good chance for us to see kind of all the new styles of eyewear that are out there. And one of the things that we're seeing more and more in fit overs now is they have cut grooves on the inside of the fit over, because if you've ever worn fit overs, you put them over your glasses and it feels like your glasses are hitting them. They don't feel like they kind of slide in together very well. That's part of why the return rate's high. The other is that people don't like to measure. So if you're buying online and you're buying a fit over,
yeah, it looks like it fits.
you're like, oh, fits most glasses, great, I'll buy that. You don't realize that you have big honking fat glasses. That happens all the time. I mean, you cannot imagine. We'll sell very, very large fit overs that'll fit 3/4 of the glasses. In fact, half of them people will be like, oh, these are too big. And then we get returns all the time where the customer's saying, oh, these are humongous, I can't, or these are, sorry, far too small. They don't fit over my glasses. And which tells us that their glasses are humongous.
Wow,
They're in like the 20% largest segment of glasses. But anyway, back to photochromic. Photochromic is the other big return, and the reason is that they never seem to get dark enough for people, right? So one of the other things that we've been working on for the last year and a half, my father, every meeting we walked into for 18 months, pounded the table and said, I need a darker photochromic. So photochromic lenses, the typical photochromic lenses, you have categories of lenses. So a 0 would be a clear, 1, 2, 3. 3 would be the standard gray lens sunglass. And then you have a 4, which is called a super dark, which has 8% light penetration, so very dark. Photochromic, they claim to be 0 to 3. And there's actually 0 to 2 and 0 to 3, but 0 to 2 doesn't get remotely dark enough. 0 to 3 is what almost all photochromic are on the market today. And they claim that they get to standard 3, they get as dark as your regular glasses. But if you've ever used, I don't know if you've ever used photochromics, but I'm sure many of you have, they never quite get that dark. Especially if you're in an environment like Arizona or Florida in the summer, where you're 100 degrees, whatever. And there is like a benchmark. If you crack 104 degrees, they almost don't transition at all, because it's a chemical reaction that causes this transition. So you get over a certain temperature and the chemical doesn't transition. So, doesn't get to a 3. How do we solve that? How do we stop getting all these returns for glasses? Our solution is go to the lens manufacturers and say, give us a 0 to 4. And they all looked at us like we were nuts. They're like, people don't want to wear a category 4 lens every day. That's way too dark. And we're like, yeah, you guys don't realize that these lens you claim is 0 to 3, it gets to a full 3 in lab conditions. But come outside in my home state in Florida and wear these bad boys in the summer, and you're like, it barely transitions, it barely gets dark. So 18 months of pounding the table, I like by the time we're done, I'm just like embarrassed, because my father, every meeting, that's the first thing out of his mouth. Yeah. Do you have a 0 to 4 photochromic? And they all shake their head like, come on, guy. But eventually, too, the lens manufacturers made one. And so,
you know what? That's going to start something, and everyone's going to want those.
One of the best business lessons I ever had, and I grew up in a family business, so I got just like you did, got this tremendous knowledge, getting to watch my father do business, is if you demand it, a lot of times they'll figure it out, if it's that important to you. And so demanding it, we're going to market with this. No one has it right now. I'm sure it'll pop up everywhere pretty quickly after that. But this year we're going to go to market with a 0 to 4 photochromic and get truly dark enough in a photochromic lens, which is pretty exciting. So that was my adventure in Taiwan.
Yeah, well, there's a need for that in areas like where we live, where it is so bright. I mean, even the fits-overs sometimes are not dark enough for me.
I can understand that. Yeah. I can understand that. And a 0 to 4 we think is really going to get a little past a 3, or right around a 3 in hot conditions, that sort of thing. So maybe more than you ever wanted to know about sunglasses, or more technical, but I think kind of a neat.
I'm fascinated by that. What other trends in the sunglass industry should we look for?
So we're, Pit Viper set everyone on this kind of, they call them shield glasses in the industry, like this shield glasses trend where you get this huge lens across the front. They're gaudy 90s style sort of lenses. You see them everywhere now.
Like ski glasses.
Yeah, and that's big time the trend. We're doing a little bit of that. We tend to not chase trends, but try to do classic styles in our lines more so. We're doing a lot of safety glasses too, so it's not as much that. We are going to market with a safety glasses version of that, because quite frankly, if I'm playing baseball wearing that, you want something that's safety rated that can take an impact and not shatter and poke you in the eyeball. Or if you're riding a bicycle, so if you go tumbling off or something, a branch comes flying at you and whacks you, protects your eyes. There's all kinds of cool photos that customers actually send us with our safety glasses. Our Global Vision brand, especially, we get pictures from customers where the glasses have saved their eye. But so if you're doing things where you should be wearing safety glasses, make sure you will, because I've seen, I don't even know how many pictures of wild things. Like I saw a guy, he had some kind of a blade on a electric device that was about this big around, kind of the size of a cookie almost. And the device had launched the blade off of the device, and it hit it kind of horizontally in the glasses and stuck.
Wow.
So like he's got a blade sticking out of his glasses. It saved his eyesight.
Wow.
Lots of. We do a lot in the motorcycle space too. A lot of our eyewear brands are in that space, and we've gotten tons of pictures from bikers who've been hit in the face with things or tumbled off their bike in an accident, and sharing that it saved their eyesight. So,
what testimonials!
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
I thought that was so cool. Just such a neat.
Asia. There's all all of Asians wear glasses pretty much, right? There's a lot of eye correction over there. So I remember the first couple of times I went to Hong Kong, the first thing we did when we got to Hong Kong was go to the eyeglass place and order our eyeglasses so that we could get them before we left Hong Kong.
Because it's a lot
and
more
bring them
affordable?
back. Well, not because they were more affordable, but because we could get the newest style. We could get thinner lenses over there than we could over here. And, you know, that for decades, that's what we did every time we went to Hong Kong. And so about the third time I did that, I brought the lenses back over, and my dad said, you know, you really shouldn't be wearing those glasses as much. And I said, why? He says, because their standards are different over there. They can buy thinner lenses, but they're glass. And, you know, so I said, okay, I will take my lenses and have them tested at a lab here in America. So they did the drop ball test. And the first lens that I had in one of my pairs of glasses, it was the coolest pair of glasses too. You know, that was the shape when there were the retro plastic over the top and metal on the bottom. So first glass performed beautifully. Then I was like, oh yeah, it's shatterproof, it's glass and it's shatterproof. And then he dropped the metal ball on the second lens, and I said, oh, it's shattered
everywhere.
So I couldn't wear those cool glasses anymore. But you know, that didn't stop me from buying frames. I ended up buying frames over every time I go to Asia, and then have them made into glasses.
Well, they're all made in Asia anyway.
They are made in Asia.
All of those frames, you walk in, they're all made in Asia. In fact, if you go to the eye doctor's office and you buy frames, just about every frame's made in Asia. I was at Vision East, which there's a Vision East and a Vision West, which are the two biggest, you know, optical shows, especially for eye doctors or people doing corrective lenses in the U.S. So I flew from Taiwan straight to New York, went to Vision East for a day, and got to see kind of what the trends are on this side of the ocean and in general, which I mean, again, it's all coming from over there. And I think our trends just kind of lag a bit behind everyone else's. And you find that they're all kind of buying from the same factories anyway. Yeah. And I started going to Vision East because I found a manufacturer in the U.S. because I've always I want to give you the choice, because we always hear this, like, I want to buy made in America. And I think people sincerely mean that, but I think a lot of times they don't realize what that means. So I've always wanted to offer the exact same pair of sunglasses made in Asia. So we have like a $25 price point sunglass made in Asia. And I want to offer the exact same thing made in the USA, and give you the option. Will you pay a little more for this one, right? And so I want to get a perspective on kind of how much more we're talking. And I always knew it would be a lot, but I really underestimated how much it would be. So the same pair of glasses that currently we sell for $25 would cost roughly, our cost in the US, $65. So 3 times the retail price. Or almost 2.5 times the retail price, which is mind-blowing, right? Like, I mean, positively mind-blowing. I don't know that people would, which means I've got to retail it at what, like $150 for something that should cost $25, or we think should cost $25, because that's what it costs when you buy it out of Asia. But you know what? The reason is that, and it blew my mind in factories over in Asia. I bet there's 6 sets of hands that touch every single pair of sunglasses. So a pair of sunglasses that retails for $25, which, remember, at retail, it's not like the factory sold it to the retailer. No, the factory sold it to us, and then we put a brand name on it, quality control checked it, all that, and then passed it on to the retailer. So everybody made a little piece in the deal. That, I mean, it's 6 people touch probably every pair. You know, it goes in a machine. We're gonna set the machine up, load the mold, boom. Okay, run the machine. Now a separate machine makes the lenses, then the machine that makes the arms, then the machine that makes the core of the frame, typically. And then a lot of times you'll then have another machine. Sometimes now we're seeing machines to do both in the same machine, but that same set of arms will come out and they'll do what's called double injected rubber, which is put rubber onto the plastic arms, and then. So that, you know, that's another set of hands touching it. Now those come off. Somebody has to snap the arms into the frame. Someone else trims all the excess rubber off the edges of the arms. And we're still going. We haven't even done the lenses yet. Lenses now have to get dipped in a whole bunch of coatings because we got to have anti-scratch. We want to have anti-fog. We have all these different coatings. Yeah,
right?
UV coated. Every last one of them are UV coated at this point. Actually, I've never seen a sunglass that wasn't UV 400 coated. I think maybe they all have to be. I don't know. I've never asked because they just all are. I mean, I guess one exists that isn't. But anyway, and then photochromic if you want photochromic, and then there's a bunch of others if you want Revo or whatever. And then potentially you have some film coatings too, or maybe instead of dipping. Then the lens has to get cut. Then someone's got to pop it in the frame, make sure it's not loose or anything like that, and actually fits, all that good stuff. It's a wild adventure. Oh, and then they got to stamp the lens. Like, how many people have touched one pair of sunglasses is mind-blowing. So that's why it's so difficult to do in the U.S. because there's so much manual labor involved in doing sunglasses. The things that the U.S. manufacturer is a lot more competitive on are the things that there isn't a ton of labor in, that you can use a lot more machines to do that with. So anyway, well, I think it's been a fun podcast. We got to talk about a whole bunch.
Yeah,
of
we
different
talked
topics.
about a lot of stuff today, all the way from your Taiwan trip to. We finished with sunglasses, and we talked about chili crisps in the middle.
A little bit of food, a little bit of travel, and a little bit of technical knowledge.
Hey, all fun stuff.
Cool. Well, we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you'll join us next week for another fun podcast, and we'll keep it running as long as you guys want to keep watching. If you'll click subscribe, it'd mean a lot to us. Thanks. We'll see you next time.